Now let's get an analyst take on Apple. They recently upgraded Apple stock to a neutral, raised the price target by about $100, though, that's stating that many of the worst case scenario risks are gone. Let's bring in that analyst. Joining us now is Craig Moffett, founder, partner, and senior managing director at MoffettNathanson. No sirens where you are, Craig, correct?
Hey, Brian. No, it's quiet here, fortunately.
Fantastic. All right. What risks were there that are now gone?
There were two big ones, Brian. The first was tariffs. When even before Liberation Day in April, we knew there was going to be something with tariffs, and Apple is unique among the Mag 7 in that it's really a manufacturer and an importer. And so it was most exposed to tariffs. We didn't know how that would go. And by and large, the worst case scenarios for tariffs have been sidestepped by side deals. The bigger one actually was the risk from the Google antitrust case, where, if you'll recall, Judge Amit Mehta had already found that the payments that Google makes to Apple, which account for 25% of Apple's operating income, are illegal. And so it was not unreasonable to think there was considerable risk to those payments when the remedies portion of that case proceeded. And what we heard in the remedies, perhaps surprisingly, was, yes, they're illegal, but we're not going to do anything about it so they can remain in place. Those two risks being taken off the table leave Apple, in our view, as a still somewhat overvalued stock. It's just an expensive stock given what it is. But the really big downside risks were gone.
Okay, so still expensive. You don't love it. You upgraded it from a sell to a neutral. By the way, the sell call, I think, was very good because the stock fell this year. And I want to say this carefully, Craig, because I am an Apple fan. Everything I have is Apple. I had a Lisa. I had a Newton. I had the first iPod.
And by the way, I'm a huge Apple fan, too.
I've got
Ryan,
a little museum of discarded Apple products at my home. But I just posted on X this very simple question. Since the iPhone came out almost 20 years ago, 2007, changed all of our lives. Then shortly thereafter, there was the iPad, which is basically a larger iPhone. What has Apple done? The Mac is kind of the same, a little faster, right? What is Apple? Is it they just sell phones?
Well, no, look, phones are about half of the revenues. It's probably not fair to say they haven't innovated. They've
I didn't say they haven't. I said, what is their greatest innovation? Because the
innovations have actually been largely on the software.
The email client is arguably not great.
The biggest innovation actually is probably the app environment in the App Store, right? And the innovation that has happened around the App Store. And all that's truly wonderful. You know, we get all of these when we had a sell rating on the stock. We had all of these kind of straw man arguments that would be thrown at us. Like, do you really think people are going to switch from Apple to Android, or that phones are going to go away and we're going to start using glasses instead, and all these arguments? And we never believed any of that stuff. People are really, really committed to the Apple ecosystem. The Apple ecosystem works wonderfully well. Our pushback was simply, okay, but this is a company that's growing substantially slower than the market, and it's priced at, right now it's crept back up to 37 times earnings. So it's trading at about a 24% premium, 25% premium to the overall S&P, including the S&P, the Mag 7. If you take the Mag 7 out, it's trading at a 49% premium to the market, and it's growing slower than the market. And so over time, unless they can meaningfully accelerate the growth and perpetually accelerate it in order to support the multiple,
and they lock people, do they not?
More slowly than the market, right?
And a lot of people responding to my X post with kind of that locked-in ecosystem. I don't know if they mean that as a compliment. Again, I pay for Apple One. I think it's $38 now per month. I buy music on iTunes. Yes, I'm still the guy that does that. I haven't probably put a new app on my phone in years. There's not been anything hot, but I pay for a lot of apps that currently exist for weather and flight tracking, stuff like that. And I think that the genius maybe is the ecosystem, is it not?
It's a wonderful ecosystem. Now, by the way, I should point out there was another issue that poses at least some risk to Apple, and that is when Apple lost the Epic Games suit with the video game manufacturer or publisher Epic, That said, that you can now go outside of the Apple ecosystem in order to process payments, and Apple doesn't get 30% of all of those payments anymore if the customer does go outside of Apple to make payments. That does pose a risk to the growth rate of services revenue, and services revenue is a really important part of the Apple story, right? It's very high margin and high growth.
Yeah, we'll leave it there.